Hello and welcome to this O&DR Modurol video for Kuga EGR Blanking Plate. This is video K004 in our series of Kuga videos, and this video we're going to show you how to get an MPG increase of up to 10% in a few minutes for a few pounds. We're going to do that by fitting an EGR blanking plate or gasket without any holes. It's actually slotted, so you don't need to remove any screws, which makes it very easy and simple to fit. The particular engine we're concentrating on today is the Euro5 PSA, sort of Ford PSA DW10CTED4 2-litre 16-valve diesel engine. It's known as Duratorq in the Ford Ford cars. It's not the DW10CTED4. That's a separate plate. Please be cautious. There are 4 different 2-litre TDCI engines within the Ford range, so you need to make sure you've got the right engine. It's very simple to identify because the engine will look like this. The tools you're going to need an extended set of Allen keys. A normal set of Allen keys won't do the trick. You need an extended length set of Allen keys, a small ring spanner, don't have to be particular about the size, and a cloth or a rag to stop falling debris going down in the engine and spending more time retrieving bits than actually doing the job. Okay, I've split this video down into several chapters or sections. First of all, we'll talk about where the blanking plate actually fits in this instance. Secondly, how simple it is to fit without removing the intake and getting very complicated. Section 3 then, the potential benefits. And then section 4, where you can buy one. Okay, section 1 then, where does it fit? So as I say, this is the engine compartment of that particular engine. With the beauty cover taken off, the engine cover, it just pulls straight off. This is the EGR vacuum valve. And it actually, there's a gasket that sits under there which links that valve to the actual EGR itself. The gasket is a 9E464, and this blanking plate sits in between the gasket and the EGR body there. The location here, I've got a photograph of the engine with the lower intake pipe removed, but as I say, you don't need to remove that. It simply slides using the slots, as we said, into that gap between the EGR and the vacuum valve body, and all you have to do is loosen these 2 cap screws by circa 2-3 millimeters, give enough gap to get the EGR plate in. Okay, section 2 then, a simple fitment without removing the intake. So you can actually access these screws from the right hand side of the engine, and I'm going to show you how. I say, make sure you put the rag underneath the EGR valve to make sure you don't lose your Allen keys or any screws inadvertently, or the EGR blanking plate. So you should be able to see the gasket behind this valve. If you look down the gap in the valve, you should see the top of the gasket. Now that's where you want to put that bent bit of steel. There is actually part of the sealing gasket for the EGR system, and it's that gap in between there you want to fit the EGR blanking plate. You can actually see one of the cap screws. Here's a bit better view. I say the top there is actually the vacuum valve, and using your extended length Allen key you can actually get at that screw from the right hand side and still leave enough leverage to get the thing undone. Here's a bit of a video giving you a bit better look. So there's the Allen key, and you get threads in and out of all the pipes, etc., onto that cap screw. Yeah, they're not particularly tight, these screws, but you do need to use a bit of leverage to get them undone. That's where the ring spanner comes in handy. Just loosen that cap screw off. I say, don't remove it, just take it out about 2-3 millimeters. You can actually access the lower screw. You can't see it, but you can feel it. In a similar way, you get your Allen key underneath the water pipes. You thread it all the way under there, and you should be able to feel that cap screw, and it should engage once it's in the right place. It's a bit of feeling in the dark there, but you can reasonably easily get at that cap screw under there. As I say, you can't see it, but it is there. Again, using your ring spanner, loosen that cap screw again 2-3 millimeters. You should then be able to separate the two halves. The easiest way of doing that is with the Allen key and gauge, push it toward the left, and the pipe attached to the EGR on the left hand side of the two halves here should move away slightly. If you need a bit of help with that, you can get a screwdriver in the gap, but be very careful. You don't want to damage that gasket or create any leak paths in that area. You can leave it open carefully with a screwdriver. You then take your blanking plate and get underneath the intake duct there, and you should be able to get it in place. It's very, very, very tricky, and you're going to probably going to take you longer to do that than any other part of this job. It's simply sliding that in place. But once you do locate it, it is possible to do, but it is very, very tricky. Bit of a tip then: the manufacturer of this blanket plate has actually had a little tab, and I found that tab very, very helpful in actually moving the blanking plate into position from a very tricky angle. So grab hold of that and you should be able to just fiddle with it and get it in. It should slot into the right place. Again, once you're happy it's in place, retighten both cap screws, fit the engine cover, and away you go. You're not going to get any engine management light in this particular application. Don't worry about that. So here we are. Any benefits? Obviously, you're going to get up to 10% extra economy without removing the EGR or the DPF or remapping or anything complicated. Big increase in economy. So why do you get that? Because several factors. The main one is you're going to get clean air at a lower temperature into your intake, which is where you get the economy from. Additional advantages then are it prevents the soot build-up because it's not pumping soot back from the exhaust into your engine, which it can eventually block the intake manifold up, causing problems with the backs of your valve sticking and lower power because of restrictions. It also has the additional benefit that DPF isn't actually having to deal with as much soot being developed by the engine because it's recirculating around. The EGR itself is not passing through as much gas, if any, so it doesn't get jammed. You don't have that issue. The engine oil itself should actually be cleaner, giving a longer life because you haven't got soot being forced back in the cylinder. It's just sent out the exhaust. People do say the turbo should spool up a bit quicker at lower revs and get a smoother drive, but I'm not particularly. This isn't a power thing. This isn't about power or being better performance. It's purely economy. There are some problems with fitting an EGR blank. Obviously, it's strictly not strictly legal. It's for off use only. That's because you're messing around with your EGR system is not, or air pollution system is not strictly allowed. It does increase pollution, in this particular case NOx levels, and they have known to cause respiratory issues. So there are some problems with fitting these sort of thing. Just a bit of an aside, I've compared this PSA engine's blanking plate to one for a Mazda Skyactiv 2.2 litre diesel, and you can see the two different manufacturers, French and Japanese, how their EGR systems are handling massive amounts of different volumes of air. So in the case of PSA or the Duratorq, it's a very small blanking plate, very small diameter of EGR, so it's not really recirculating that much gas. But in the Japanese one, it's a lot bigger. So these Japanese guys are taking it very, very seriously. They're pumping as much of that soot and dirty exhaust gas back into your engine to reduce your NOx levels. So crafty French and the honest Japanese, we know what the Germans and the French have been doing with their EGR and all sorts of defeat systems. The Japanese are much more serious about it. But what I would say is that in this particular case, in my opinion, the Ford or PSA weren't really taking the EGR very seriously, so blocking it isn't really that much of a problem. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Anyway, let me know in the comments. What I will say is this sort of implementation is much cheaper than doing an economy remap. You still get the MPG increase an economy remap will give, because the first trick, in my opinion, of economy remap is turning off the EGR valve. There's no such thing as a free lunch. You don't get the economy because of, well, I suppose a little bit because of the better fuel mapping, but the majority of it, again, in my opinion, is because you got lower intake temperature. Obviously, it's a lot cheaper to put this blanking plate rather than doing a remap, which could be £200-300. But it's not going to, as I said before, it's not going to increase your power. If you want to do it really properly, by all means, do a full remap. But do bear in mind that most remaps are probably not going to be strictly legal, because they're going to turn off the EGR and or the DPF to increase the power and efficiency of the engine at the detriment of the anti-pollution gear. Anyway, there you go. You've got to deal with that sort of yourself. Where do you buy one of these? If you're interested in buying one, there's a guy selling them on eBay, Bertie Lee, 1958. He has a series of these things. I've dealt with him a few times, and he's a really good product. Does the job, good instructions. Obviously not the level of instructions I've given you here. I say this is the blanking plate for the particular engine we spoke about, the DW10CTED4 engine, very reasonably priced at $439 delivered. What he does say in those details, you double check your engine in the pictures of the listings. There are 4 different engines, as I say. There is this particular engine I've gone through in this video is the Euro5 PSA. It's not the earlier one, etc. And in that case, the inlet manifold and the EGR valve is located in a different place. Coming up next, if you're interested, I'm going to fit a battery charging lead. Watch out for that video coming up. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope you find that interesting if you're looking to increase your economy of your car and you're not too worried about the EGR valve. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, comment, share and subscribe for more Kuga, XK8 and Leaf videos.